Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. We are back again with more Shadowrun Dragonfall. One of the aspects of the game that you have to run into time and time again is decking, which is essentially hacking in this futuristic world. Even though you have to do a lot of it, I honestly don't feel like it's very well explained in the game. At least it's not explained what are some really nice strategies you can use to try to make decking as simple as possible. So in this video, I want to go through all of the programs that you could potentially use while you're decking and let you know how I feel about them, whether or not they're actually useful. And then we'll go into a combat example so you can see how I usually approach decking in the game, and hopefully it will give you an idea about what will work for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, if you're going to be a decker, what is most important for you is to make sure your Cyberdeck is always the highest level it can possibly be. So as you advance in your decking skill, you're going to get access to higher level and higher level Cyberdeck. So as you can see right now, I have the Sony CTY, I own that, and that's the beginning Cyberdeck, but now I've leveled up decking to the point where I could get the Renraku if I wanted to. And the reason why it's so important to upgrade your Cyberdeck is that it determines a lot regarding how resilient you are while you're out in the Matrix. So basically, when you're decking, you're going to be in this Matrix world completely on your own, separated from your party members. You're not going to have access to any of their healing or their buffs, so you're going to be completely dependent upon yourself. And the Cyberdeck really determines a lot about what's available to you. So you see, at first it has programs, and that tells you how many programs this Cyberdeck can fit, then how many ESPs this Cyberdeck can fit, which are basically a different type of program, and we'll go over that. How much evasion your character has, because you are going to be attacked by other programs. And then IP is basically the same as HP, saying how many hit points do you have before you're essentially kicked out of the Matrix and you have to start over from the very beginning, which obviously is extremely irritating. And then finally, AP, your action points. So how many actions can you take each turn? That is determined in the Matrix by the Cyberdeck that you own. So very, very important that you're upgrading this as quickly as possible. But upgrading it is extremely expensive. So if you're going to play as a decker, it's definitely important to make sure you're getting as much money as possible. Moving on to the actual programs that you have in the list. The first one is suppression, and it's going to reduce the alarm state by 4. This is absolutely a must-have. If you trip the alarm while you are in the Matrix, it will cause much more powerful programs to come and attack you, and can potentially make the task that you're attempting to complete completely undoable. So it's really, really important that you try to keep that alarm state as low as possible. Not only do I pick this up, but honestly, every time I step into the Matrix, pressing suppression is the first thing that I do. It has a cooldown of 6 turns, so it's, even though it costs 3 AP, it's not something that you're going to be using constantly, but just every time that it's available, I go ahead and press it to make sure I keep that alarm state down and I don't have to worry about making things harder than they're supposed to be. Next up is Blaster, which creates an area of effect matrix attack that deals 50 IP damage to the IC and deckers that you're going to be facing. This is absolutely, again, something that you want to have. There are many times where the ICs are going to be grouped together in groups of 2 or even 3. So having this ability and being able to deal that damage to them all together is really, really nice. Next up is Degrade. Hostile targets will take 25 additional damage from incoming attacks for 3 rounds. An additional 25 damage is nothing to sneeze at. That's actually considerable. But again, this ability is not doing direct damage to your target. So it's kind of more like a nice to have. If you've got a really high decking skill, allowing you to get access to some of the higher level Cyberdecks, then you've got some extra slots. You can put that on, but I would say that this is probably not a priority. Next up is erosion. Erodes integrity points of IC, does negative 50 IP with an ongoing negative 25 IP for 2 rounds. This again is something that's very nice, but you get better attack options. So I would put this in the same category as degrade. If you've got a really high level Cyberdeck where you have extra slots, you can go ahead and put this in, but it's not something you're going to be able to use in the early or mid game. I would say that I consider erosion to be better than degrade overall. Next up is firewall. It's going to create 4 squares of firewall that cost 25 AP when moving through it. I never use this. It's difficult to determine. It's not necessarily difficult to determine when the IPs are going to move towards you, but oftentimes they have more than one path they can use to get towards you, and a lot of them don't need to actually move in order to damage you. So overall, I think this is too situational in order for it to actually be useful. Next up is Killer, a powerful attack program directed at one target, doing 75 IP damage. This is your most powerful attack in the game. It's an absolute must-have. You want it on your Cyberdeck at all times. It only has a cooldown of 1 turn, so basically every single turn, you're going to be able to use this again and again, and you're absolutely going to want to do that. Next up is Medic, heals yourself or a friendly target for 40 IP. This is another must-have on your Cyberdeck. You are going to be attacked by other programs, so you absolutely need a way to heal yourself. There's no way around it, so having a Medic on yourself is an absolute must. Next up is Shield. Incoming damage from attacks is reduced by 15 for 4 rounds. This is definitely something you really want to have. I would say Killer and Medic and Suppression are the first 3 you want to have, and then Shield and the other one, Blaster, kind of come up afterwards. So Shield is obviously going to be useful because these programs are going to be attacking you, and it's going to help to mitigate the amount of damage that you take. The really cool thing about Shield is you can put it onto yourself before you actually get into combat. So by mitigating that damage, it's going to allow you to use Medic less, which is going to allow you to use your attack abilities more. So definitely to your advantage. Next up is Slow, reduces AP target by 1 for 2 rounds. I never used this. I didn't bother going after the AP of targets. I just preferred to kill them outright. After that is Sniffer. Increases your chance to hit against enemy IC and Deckers by 15% for 3 rounds. This actually is really useful. Some of the ICs come with natural shielding or behind cover, so it makes it much harder to hit them. And if you're far away, sometimes you go into a new section very far away from the ICs, and so getting that additional percentage is very nice. But again, this is one of those computer programs that I would say you use it if your Cyberdeck has a lot of extra space and you want to slot something. It's not really a priority. Those are all of the programs, so now we get into the ESPs. So ESPs are basically like companion programs that you could deploy. Honestly, you do not need to use ESPs at all. You could completely depend just upon the regular Decker programs if you wanted to. And it's questionable whether or not it's really even to your advantage to use ESPs, because if you want to get the most out of them, you have to put karma points into that skill. And obviously, if you did use them, you could allocate those points into another area. So if you're the kind of player who you really like to just specialize in one area and you want to be the absolute best Decker possible, you could go ahead and focus on this, but it's not necessary at all. Also, you could just put 1 point into the ESP skill, and that would allow you to use all of these. And even though they wouldn't be great, it would give you some flexibility and another option. With all that being said, the first one is Assassin ESP. Creates an assassin program that'll basically do attacks against the IPs that you're going up against, same as you can. Very useful. I liked using this one quite a bit. Next up is the Execute Attacker ESP. Again, it can do attacks against the IPs. I actually think Assassin does more damage, and I felt like it was more versatile than the Attacker ESP, so I would rank this one above it. Next is the Exploder ESP, and I think this is probably the best of the group. So basically what you could do is put out an Exploder ESP that you can then move into range of the IPs you're going up against, and then set it to self-destruct, and so it'll explode and damage the IPs that are around it for honestly quite a bit of damage, even if you've only got 1 point in ESP. So it's really nice to have. One of the other things to keep in mind is when you use ESPs, it significantly increases your alarm meter. So it's another reason why you want to use suppression, and by using Exploder, you basically just send it out and then put it by the IPs that exploded. So out of all of these, it probably has the least impact on your alarm meter. So that's something else that actually makes it really good to use. And then finally, you have the Execute Shield ESP. So basically, this ESP can put shielding onto you that is going to help mitigate attacks on top of the shield program you're already using. So if you end up in a situation where you just think you're getting absolutely hammered and having a lot of trouble getting past a particular sequence, this can be nice to have. So honestly, I used Exploder and Shield the most when I was using ESPs, which honestly was very little in the game. I did see a real need to use them, but all of these, you know, except for Attack, I feel like Assassin is clearly better. But between Assassin, Exploder, and Shield, they definitely have their uses. And if you wanted to specialize in that matter, you absolutely could. So here's an example of how decking works in the game. So we're out in the game world, and here there's this jack in option that we have. We'll click that, and then it will ask, well, who do you want to be the person that's decking in? So we'll go ahead and select Grindel, my main character, press it again. And then it's going to come up with the Cyberdeck that I have currently equipped, which allows me to use 5 programs. So I'll add Blaster, Killer, Medic, Shield, and Suppression. And then it's got enough for 2 ESP slots. So I'll add Explosion and Shield as well. And I'll press Confirm. Now in this situation, because there's no fight going on, it takes me directly into the Matrix. If there was a fight going on, then it would just jack me in, but then everybody else would get to do their turn, and then the enemies will get to have their turn. And if the enemies shoot you and do enough damage while you're in the Matrix, it'll kick you out, and you have to jack back in and do it all over again. So you want to be very strategic about how you're doing this. So now that I'm in the Matrix, first thing I want to do is go ahead and press Suppression. Put that on myself, and it's going to lower the alarm bar here. You do not want to set up the alarm again. That's going to cause things to be harder than they have to be for you. And then I'm also going to place Shield on myself, and so that way it's already enabled before a fight occurs, and I don't have to worry about it if for whatever reason a fight happens. Now I start running, and sooner or later you're going to get IPs that'll come out and attack you. So you see I've got basically 3 different groups. This group is bunched together, so I feel like I might as well go ahead and attack them. I could get closer to increase my percentages, but I usually don't bother. I just go ahead and get started. Things work themselves out one way or another. So I did Blaster, and it does 75 damage to both of them. And then I use Killer, which is again going to be your best single target attack. And it did 100 damage to that particular one. And then I'll attack it one more time, and that did another 75 damage. These guys got to get closer in order to attack you. These guys can attack you from range. So it's up to you what you decide to prioritize. And you see that he got a little bit closer because he can buff up these other people or heal them, or he could buff himself to do major damage against you. But this is another reason why having Blaster is fantastic, because enemies will bunch together like this. I'm going to go ahead and use Killer again. And actually, no. I should have enough where I could just do this by myself. And yep, I did enough damage just with my regular attack that it took care of him. And then hit him again. And now he's finally close enough to be able to attack. There's one attack, either he was missing or Shield was mitigating enough where I wasn't experiencing the damage, but now he was able to hit me. So now I want to use Medic, not only because he did a lot of damage to me, but also because this guy is charging quite a bit. So sooner or later, he might be able to do major damage to me as well. I'll go ahead and use Killer on him, and that takes care of him. Then since I have a higher percentage of hitting him than this guy, I'll go ahead and focus on him. That attack missed. Now he's going to focus on buffing this guy because it's the last friendly partner he has. So you see he increased the accuracy of that particular character. My shield is still up, so I can still focus on damage. Again, it's fantastic to go ahead and focus on putting that up before the fighting starts. The first 2 attacks missed, but he missed me as well. And we'll go ahead and attack him a couple more times. Again, I could get closer, but I don't have the patience. I don't bother with it. I just go ahead and attack them. Use a medic, use killer again. And now all of the enemies have been defeated, and I am able to open the blast door to continue with that mission. So that gives you a basic breakdown of how decking works. I didn't end up needing to use any of the ESPs, but you can kind of see how it might be useful to, again, put the exploder program out and have it go next to the enemies, or have the shield program out so it'll add even more shielding. And it probably would have caused me to have to use medic less than I ended up doing during the fight. Anyway, hope all of you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a like, share this content, subscribe to the channel, and become a member if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next video. Take care.